The Chargers are apparently within striking distance of signing Jim Harbaugh. The Rams could lose as many as 3 starters on their offensive line this summer. And the Clippers beat the Lakers, but that defense, it could cost them a title shot. Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos morning report. So it is January 24th, 2024. We added a new subscriber to the Angeleno Familia yesterday. Thank you for getting in on the ground floor. We'll do our best to keep you informed. And do you like being in the know about LA sports? Well, if you do, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. By all means, comment. I actually enjoy hearing from you guys. And I got to get back to the people who reached out to me yesterday. Now, before we go through the news and notes, a look at the scoreboard. Clippers 127, Lakers 116. The upshot, no LeBron James. So not much of a chance for the Lakers. Kawhi Leonard led the Clippers with 25 points. He had a triple-double, in fact. James Harden added 23. Meanwhile, for the Lakes, D'Angelo Russell scores 27 points. Anthony Davis scores 26 points. The Lakers slide under 500 yet again. So be it. Mediocrity. Enjoy the scent. Meanwhile, today, Buffalo is at the Kings at 7:30 this evening. But we have to get to the news because, as you can tell, look at that far column, our rundown. We have a lot to get to. The NFL Network is reporting that the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh are, quote, within striking distance, unquote, of reaching a deal for him to become the new head coach. The Detroit Free Press added that Harbaugh received an extremely strong offer financially from the Chargers. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not saying the Chargers didn't make an offer. We were talking about this just yesterday. If you want a second interview with Jim Harbaugh and you get it, you're not there to go over X's and O's again. You're there to go over dollars and cents. But I'm left asking myself a question. How much of that report is hype? In other words, I'm sure that the Chargers offered way more than what they have previously paid other coaches. It would not surprise me if the Chargers offer is legit, but there's a reason I'm looking at this article with trepidation. It's because we know Harbaugh would love to start a bidding war. He is, in fact, negotiating with Michigan as well as we speak. So it's not the Chargers and nobody else. It's the Chargers and Michigan. So you ask and by the way, he's got a second interview with Atlanta, which means they're going to talk dollars and cents. So who would tell the Detroit Free Press or the NFL Network that there's an offer? It damn sure wouldn't be the Chargers. Who does that leave? Harbaugh. It's got to be Harbaugh's people sending a message to Michigan. Step up or you're going to lose me. And how often does Harbaugh leverage NFL teams to get a better deal with Michigan? Glad you asked. In 2020, he flew to Minnesota to interview with the Vikings. 2021, he holds a virtual interview with Denver. So this is a man who knows how to play the game. He does. And you might be asking, well, he just won a national title. Why the hell isn't Michigan just backing up a Brinks truck filled with gold bars to keep their coach? It's because the Wolverines program has been hit with a number of NCAA violations. And by the way, it's not nickel and dime stuff. You might remember back in the day, the NCAA would investigate Florida State University for handing out free sneakers to their players. The people with the NCAA are like, no, this is much worse than what's going on. There's allegations, for example, of sign stealing. There's also allegations that they were violating recruiting restrictions that were placed during the COVID period. So Harbaugh, he's like, I might return to Michigan, but I want immunity from being fired. He wants immunity from being fired no matter what the findings are from the NCAA. Now, you might think that's a little extreme, but it has happened in college sports before. Kansas basketball coach Bill Self, for example, has such items put in place into his contract. So yeah, the Chargers definitely want him. They might wind up getting him. But Harbaugh's playing the game. Keep that in mind. Former Bolts general manager Tom Telesco has landed on his feet. He has been hired by the Raiders as their new GM. Feel free to laugh if you like. I don't know. I didn't think Telesco was a horrible GM, but the Chargers didn't exactly have a deep roster either. The Athletic took a look at the Rams' priorities for the offseason, assuming that they don't have to make major changes in the coaching staff, of course. The first priority is to continue to invest in the offensive line. Now, you might ask yourself, wait a second, that line was pretty damn good last year. But they could lose as many as 3 starting offensive linemen. That's a downgrade. For example, right guard Kevin Dotson, who was considered by Pro Football Focus to be the best interior lineman in the game last year. Center Coleman Shelton, both of them unrestricted free agents. Also, left tackle Alaric Jackson, restricted free agent. Now, we all know that the Rams have cap space, $40 million of it, as a matter of fact. But it's kind of difficult to imagine them keeping all 3. Now, it's not exactly a disastrous situation. It simply brings up something that we've talked about in the last couple of weeks. The Rams, for example, pick at 19th in the first round. Now, say you don't find a cornerstone player at 19. Say you don't find a guy that you think could eventually replace Matthew Stafford, could replace Aaron Donald at 19. And let's be real, the odds are kind of long at that spot. Couldn't you theoretically trade down to land 2 picks in the second round? You actually could. Maybe, just maybe, you start replenishing the offensive line early in the second round. Is that much of a stretch? Really? The Rams found Steve Avila in round 2 last year. So there is that. Second priority, the idea of finding a bookend rusher to go opposite Byron Young. That would be kind of neato. And by the way, for those suggesting that the Rams might want to look for the quarterback of the future, there is a good point to be made there. Carson Wentz, the backup now, is a free agent. So, give you a rough sketch of what the Rams might need to accomplish this summer. Here's an act that we've seen from the Clippers before. Pretty damn good regular season, bounced in the playoffs. And the Athletic asked, well, how did the Clippers change that this time? Because they're on a pretty damn strong run. We all have to admit that. And the conclusion is the defense has to get better. The Clippers allow 117.5 points per 100 possessions. That ranks 20th in the NBA. Quote, some of our blitz stuff, our fires, our low man activity, we're making the wrong rotations, said Coach Tyronn Lue. Now, since December 7th, and remember, that's around the time when they figured out how to win with James Harden in the starting lineup. The Clippers have won 5 games in a little over a month, despite allowing more than 120 points per game. Does that sound sustainable to you in the playoffs when points are harder to come by? Doesn't sound like it to me. Now keep in mind, again, the Lakers were defeated by the Clippers last night, but they still scored 116 points. Okay? Paul George is getting into foul trouble a lot. Now he's only fouled out twice, but if you get into foul trouble, you can't be as aggressive and effective on defense. Ivica Zubac out for at least a month. Even team officials concede that the backup centers on the Clippers will not be able to provide as efficient interior defense as Zubac. So the Clippers, once again, should dominate the regular season, but if they don't address this issue, they're not going to get a ring. TSN is insinuating that Kings forward Arthur Kaliev wants a trade. Now, I read the reports. They do not say Kaliev or Kaliev's representatives have formally requested a trade out of Los Angeles, but he has been a healthy scratch from the Kings lineup. Coach Todd McClellan has a reputation for not getting the most out of his younger players. But Kaliev might be in an abyss for legitimate reasons. Keep this in mind. He doesn't play defense. He doesn't. And the Kings do play a specific system that is designed to limit the amount of shots that go on their own net. They're not offense all the time. And by the way, while Kaliev does have the reputation of being a scorer, at this moment he is not producing enough for the ice time that he's getting. Now, Kings fans are kind of scratching their heads, at least, as opposed to being absolutely furious on Twitter, which they are, because they're saying to themselves, wait a minute, that's the same type of review that we could have given Gabriel Vilardi, and we just sent him out to Winnipeg in the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade. Vilardi's having a career year. Dubois is like nowhere to be found. Could the same thing be happening all over again with Kaliev? Such is the problem that goes on in a front office of a major sports team. I'm going to need a bigger whiteboard. This was the largest whiteboard I could find in the damn Office Depot, and yet all of these ridiculous trade rumors that the scribes keep coming out with, I can't hold them all for both the Lakers and the Dodgers. Notice, we're going to talk about the Lakers first. Notice that I had originally as many as 42 names compiled from baseball scribes claiming that the Dodgers were going to do whatever it takes to land those people in the last 2 months. Now, in just 2 or 3 weeks, I have 16 names that the scribes believe the Lakers are targeting, which is absolutely bananas. Now, the latest scuttlebutt, which is hard to believe about the Lakers, glad you asked, I can give it to you. The notoriously inaccurate Dave McMenamin of ESPN has added Atlanta's Trae Young, Cleveland's Donovan Mitchell, and Toronto's Dennis Schroeder to our idiot scribe rumor board regarding the Lakers. McMenamin claims the Lakers have had internal discussions where they packaged 3 draft picks along with people that they currently have on their roster. But I do have to wonder, how many times do we have to hear about the Lakers trying to get Dennis Schroeder? Dennis Schroeder gets called on late by the Lakers so many times, you have to wonder if his nickname is going to be Booty Call. Cliff Kingsbury, USC's offensive analyst and a former NFL head coach, has been interviewed for the vacant offensive coordinator job with the Philadelphia Eagles, which is great. I'm sure as hell curious how the air raid offense is going to mix with that brotherly shove play, but maybe that's just me. There was a hell of a story, by the way, on CBSSports.com about former USC quarterback JT Daniels. And it was an all-encompassing interview because Daniels, who recently retired as a player, he's played for 4 schools in his 6-year college career. He is seen as the portal guy, the transfer portal guy. And by the way, he wound up retiring from football because of multiple really serious concussions. So, very fascinating guy to talk to. Daniels was originally considered a can't-miss prospect out of modern day. He transferred so often that he started his career at USC and in his final year played for Rice, where they played USC in the Coliseum. Did you notice that? He also, by the way, played for Georgia and West Virginia. Now, his story has some remarkable bullet points. One thing that he wants to stress to college football fans is to understand about the transfer portal that when a player leaves school X to go to school Y, it's not on bad terms. That coaches and teammates are quite understanding, which you might find somewhat surprising. So when you hear, say, Lincoln Riley or Chip Kelly not pitching a fit over a player leaving, quote, very rarely is transferring an instance where a guy did not want to compete and just left. The overwhelming majority of transfers that I've seen is guys leaving on good terms with the coaches they've talked to. The transfer portal turned out to be misconstrued in terms of kids don't want to play and coaches effing somebody over. Very rarely have I seen either of the two instances happening. Transferring does not make you a cancer, unquote. Now that his playing career is over, Daniel says he wants to coach in college, which is nice, but again, the interview is so wide-ranging that it included very disturbing elements. In fact, Daniels has had so many concussions that were so severe, he doesn't even remember playing for USC. He knows he did. He just doesn't remember it. Meanwhile, also talking about USC, former USC basketball player Kevin Porter Jr. has reached a plea deal in a domestic violence case. He's going to wind up pleading guilty to a misdemeanor. And if he keeps his cool, keeps his temper for a year, the charge will just flat out go away. Now, he was in the NBA. He was waived by Oklahoma City. He was arrested on September 11th of last year and charged with assault and strangulation of his girlfriend, who plays in the WNBA. Adrian Beltre, who once finished second in MVP voting when he played for the Dodgers, is a first ballot Hall of Famer. So congratulations to him. Beltre came up through the Dodgers minor league farm system as opposed to major league farm system. The late Tommy Lasorda believed he was a blue chip, once in a lifetime type prospect and promoted him to the majors during his brief run as general manager. Beltre also has been thought of by Dodger fans as the one who got away because he was the team's best player at a time when it was owned by Frank McCourt. Do you remember that? The McCourt family didn't want to pay for Beltre. Beltre leaves for Seattle as a free agent and kept on compiling a Hall of Fame resume. Also, I'd like to point out that I forgot to mention something about new starting pitcher James Paxton. He was on the Idiot Scribe Dodger rumor board. So to keep you updated, once again, the Scribes told us the Dodgers were going after 42 guys, 42 of them, and the Scribes were right about 6. 1 out of every 7 rumors is officially proven right. And by the way, they were dead wrong on 15 names, but hey, 6 of them right. So there is that. Defensive tackle Luke Schumerman said he will transfer to UCLA from Johns Hopkins. He leaves Johns Hopkins as the school's all-time leader in tackles and sacks, which is relevant, which is great, but what is also relevant and not so great is that Johns Hopkins is Division III. Kind of an upgrade in terms of talent, wouldn't you say? Now, the Bruins have added 11 people to their roster via the transfer portal. Thankfully, there's not a Division 4 or 5. Otherwise, they'd be raiding those rosters too. Angel City FC has acquired Raquel Rodriguez from the Portland Thorns in the NWSL in exchange for allocation money. The LA Times reports Angel City FC's roster is going to look decidedly different than the one that reached the playoffs last year. 5 players are gone, including key midfielders Savannah McCaskill and Danny Weatherholt, who have played more games for this club than anybody else in the club's history. 7 players, including Rodriguez, is coming in. The new roster, though, is going to have much less experience if you consider that, for example, the recently signed Casey Fair, who played in the World Cup for Korea, South Korea, is still just a teenager, 16. So she has talent. But to repeat, she's jailbait, guys. Cool your jets. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Talk to me, for example, about Jim Harbaugh and who he's going to land with. Will Michigan cave, or will Harbaugh be the Chargers coach? Talk to me about the Rams' priorities for the offseason. And if you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We are talking LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corte El Queso production. Take care.